or your Instagram account, you actually get analytics. If you create a business account on Pinterest, you get analytics for what is pinning from your website,
Mm-hmm.
what is pinning from your Instagram account, and your YouTube channel. And if you have an Etsy shop, you also get analytics.
Happy Thursday, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well. We're getting closer to July 4th, further into July. I just seriously am having a problem actually like accepting that it's July. That we're like halfway, more than halfway over at this point with 2020. It's seeming a little weird. Hey there, Glittery Bride. We are going to have an amazing time. Hey, it's Lizzie's Chic Events. With Belle the Magazine. So Alex from Belle the Magazine is going to be joining us shortly here. And here we go. And be talking all about Pinterest and your business and how you can be really using this to build your... Hey!
How
How
are
are you?
you? Good, good. Thank you. Let me raise up my volume. I can barely hear you. There you go. Awesome.
Usually I'm way too loud, so I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe I don't want to do that. Just kidding.
Well, thanks so much for joining. I know, so Pinterest is one of those things that a lot of people are like, yeah, like they used to use it when it was like new and everything, and now they're just kind of like, oh, I only use Instagram now. So I think it's so awesome because I think one of the things that a lot of people are wondering is how do, you know, how do couples still use Pinterest? What are the right things to be posting? I mean, there's so many different things, but why don't you kind of start out and tell us a little bit about yourself and Belle Magazine?
Well, I'm the editor and founder of Belle the Magazine, and we have been a publication on online for 10 years already. And I'm gonna say like around 5 to 6 years already, we have been using Pinterest, and it has really changed the way we do business and also how we serve our advertisers because we really had cracked the code. So people, advertisers, big brands actually come to us and advertise on our Pinterest channel. And yeah, it has definitely changed the way we do business. And also the traffic that we send to our website, it's probably like 75% Pinterest for
Really
sure. Yes.
crazy. So, like, if you were to kind of, pair, or I guess, kind of pair up Pinterest versus Instagram, what would you say that you're like, how does that strategy differ for you?
Oh my God, it is completely different. On Instagram, it's more on just inspiring the brides, but also connecting with vendors, connecting with the brides connecting with their friends. And for Pinterest, it's totally different. It's just producing good content, putting it out there. You have good SEO, and you don't have to be there. You can forget about Pinterest for the rest of the week if you really schedule your posts, and you don't need any engagement. You don't need to visit the platform unless you want to, of course. But I use it more as a way to drive traffic to our website and as a way to drive traffic to our advertisers.
So
Uh,
they obviously they want beautiful photos for Pinterest. They want
of
to
course.
see that. What are some of the most popular things that, like, when you post these or you pin, I keep saying post, when you pin these things that people
Mhm.
are like, they go crazy and they're just like repinning and
Oh my God. If you are in the luxury wedding space, that is the platform to be. I have two of my clients are in the luxury bridal or party planning space, and their accounts are doing amazing. And also, any wedding dresses, they go viral usually. Um, but I think it honestly is a platform for everybody because if you even have like a niche, really niche bride, let's say South Asian brides, they go in the platform and they look for ideas. So it doesn't matter how many people you're reaching as long as you're reaching the right bride, right? Or the right couple,
yeah.
your target audience. And that's the beauty of Pinterest, that people actually go there searching for stuff. So if you keep in mind what your ideal client is looking for, and you put that content and you describe those pictures on Pinterest the way they are searching for things, then you are going to get them.
And
And yeah,
oh,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, no, no.
No, and I was going to say there is also the beauty of Pinterest is that Instagram and Facebook, they want to keep you in the platform. That's what they want, engagement, and they want comments and likes. Pinterest wants you to leave. So they are there for solving problems. So you go there, you look for the inspiration, and the hope of Pinterest is that you click on the photo and actually go to seek more information about that photo. So they are actually promoting websites.
I
So
That's so
yeah.
great because I think that's a really important distinction that you have something like Facebook or Instagram and they want you to stay longer as long as possible.
Mhm.
And Pinterest is there. It's solving a problem. Like if you're looking for, you know, if it's a recipe or a specific type of floral design or dress or anything like that. So when people are looking, what are some of the common mistakes that people use when they're using like hashtags or kind of some of the search terms?
Um, I'm going to say that the most common mistake actually that I hear and that I see is that people think that Pinterest is not working for them, but is because they are not using it correctly. But it is obviously not their fault. But it's because we see Pinterest as a social media network, and it's not a social media network. It's more like a search engine.
Right.
It's like Google. So um, people were not linking their photos to their website. So I was like, what are you doing?
So
Like,
that's
that's the
that.
worst thing you can do.
Yeah. No. So first of all, you definitely want to make sure that you're linking your photos to your website.
Absolutely. Or your Instagram account, you actually get analytics. If you create a business account on Pinterest, you get analytics for what is pinning from your website,
Mm-hmm.
what is pinning from your Instagram account, and your YouTube channel. And if you have an Etsy shop, you also get analytics, not only for what you are pinning, but what people are pinning from your channels and your website.
Okay. Okay. So that's really
So,
important too, because if you are essentially taking things from your Instagram and you're pinning them, and then people are then pinning those, then I mean, it goes so much further than just a pin or just an Instagram post. It's like it's all encompassing at that point, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then you start finding out like what's working, what brides are really looking for, when they go to your website, what they are seeing, what they're liking, and you can produce more of that content or like alter your website so those pictures can be in the front. You know, it gives you so much deep information about who your bride or your ideal client is, your couple. I keep on saying bride and I shouldn't say that. But your ideal who your ideal client is, um, because it's not only for what you are putting out there, but what they are also doing with your channel and your website. So it gives you a lot of information.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first, obviously, you need a link to your website
Yeah.
because that's number one. And then, so what's the next thing? What do you think that people are like they're just misusing it or they don't understand that they like big mistake?
Big mistake in the wedding industry. Big mistake is a lot of, especially a lot of planners and florists, they use it as a collaborative tool. There is nothing wrong with that. That's what really Pinterest is for as a user. But they're not taking advantage of the marketing tool that Pinterest could be to drive their clients to their website and the social channels. So that's the two biggest mistakes that I see is that they use it, but they're not linking the photos.
Mm,
So they're using it to set up as a portfolio, or they're using it not putting their content or their images in Pinterest, but they are using it just as a collaboration tool with their brides and creating boards for the reception or the ceremony or color palettes or anything like that.
hmm.
And so a lot of people, I ask them, oh, do you use Pinterest? And they're like, yeah, I use Pinterest, but they're not using it as a marketing tool. They're using it as a collaboration tool for their brides, which is fantastic and it's great. And that's what it's there for. But there is also another use underneath that we should all take advantage of.
Absolutely. So what do you think? So when people are like pinning, do you think it's good? I've seen some different kind of, strategies. I've seen people say it's best to take one pin and then repin it to lots of different boards. Or, other people are like, no, you should always have new content and it should only be yours. And other people are like, no, 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 it should be anything. And then you just change the caption and give credit in there. Like it's like, okay, well,
I
what's the
know.
right way to do it?
Actually, the right, well, Pinterest just released new best practices, and on their new best practices, this was like a month, 2 months ago, but they are barely like really implementing them. So creating new content is what's really going viral on the platform. Before it was uh, more concentrated on repins. Now it is more focused on creating new content, but I still 100% recommend everybody to pin the first photo or the first time they share content on the platform. It should go to the most relevant board, and then after that to all the other boards it could be relevant. So let me give you an example. So let's say you have a beautiful wedding on your blog and you're gonna pin the wedding cake. So when you're pinning the wedding cake, the first board you should pin it to should be the wedding cakes board, right? And then let's say that that wedding was pink. So then it should go to pink weddings. And then let's say that that wedding was in New York. So then it should go to New York weddings. So the most relevant is always what the picture is about, but also you should pin it to the other relevant boards. Just a service for your brides as well. So when they are looking for ideas, they know they're on that board, but also as telling Pinterest that this cake, whenever somebody's looking for a New York wedding, you can showcase this cake because it's from a New York wedding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So do they look at how so like if you have like a New York wedding board essentially, but you didn't hashtag it New York wedding, will it still show up in like a
Yeah.
couple
So
search?
yeah, absolutely. So hashtags now on Pinterest are they're using them, but they are actually not promoting them as much. You can still use hashtags, but the most important thing you can do is describe the photo. So on the description, you should always try to get as much information as you can of what that picture is about, but also what blog post is about. So again, the cake may not say New York anywhere, right? Or it doesn't have a New York background or anything like that. But the blog post is about a New York wedding. So when a bride comes to the platform and is looking for ideas to get married in New York, and they see the cake and they click on that, again, you're solving the problem. You are giving them the inspiration on a wedding in New York.
That's awesome. And so it's so good to know because I mean, before you had to use the hashtags for it to actually
Mhm.
work well. And now
Yeah,
you're saying like you don't really need that, like you don't need to do that.
no,
Does it work at all or does it not really work?
I still try to use them, but what they said is that people are actually not using hashtags as much. They're more like entering words on the search engine. So that's where the captions come from. Like that's where they pull the information for the searches from the captions. So the hashtags are still, I still use them sometimes, but I'm honestly not stressing about hashtags at all. If they're there, great. And if not, I just try
Yeah.
to pin constantly and I try to pin good content. And if I have 5 minutes and in those 5 minutes I can do 10 pins without hashtags, I would rather do that than do one pin with like amazing hashtags. So,
Okay, good. That's good to know. And in terms of like your favorite scheduler, because there's like 50 million schedulers you can use, what's your favorite scheduler to use?
I use Tailwind,
Mm,
and Tailwind is right now they just release. I think it's in beta use, but they just release a tool where you can actually crop your photos. And if you're not familiar with that app, pictures on Instagram, I mean on Instagram, on Pinterest, perform better when they are vertical. So not too long, but long enough, right? So if you had a blog post with a lot of images that are horizontal, then you will have to pull those images out and crop them and for them to actually perform well on Pinterest. And now they released this amazing tool where you can actually just pull those images inside Tailwind, crop them inside the platform, and then pin them from there. So all that old content that you couldn't pin because they were horizontal images or they were not performing well, now you can crop them there, and yeah. So I'm loving it.
That's
Yeah.
so great. That's so great. And I know like Tailwind has a like a smart loop tool where
Yes.
it basically like if something's performing well, you can kind of loop it back
Mhm.
and repin it or kind of get it back in kind of in the loop of things. Do you like to use that? Do you think it's helpful, or do you think it's like better just to like manually schedule everything?
I do like it, but I prefer not to use it right now because of the new algorithm. So I had paused all my smart loop pins just to test because with
Okay.
the new advice that they're giving for new content, I wouldn't want that to affect how my accounts are performing. So I'm gonna start to do like go back to do maybe one or two pins and see how those are doing in the smart loop. I don't know. I'm gonna test out, but before I definitely advise on the smart loop because it was super time saving. But now I don't have a real opinion on it yet.
Yeah.
Let's say that. Yeah.
Well, because I mean, with all of the new things that just came out, so now it's like, trying to make sure that you can maximize the algorithm. So, yeah, no, that's good. And so, what would you say? Like, I mean, I think one of the things that a lot of businesses, especially in the wedding industry, struggle with is really understanding. Okay, so I'm going to pin this one thing, and it's going to be on there for like 2 seconds. So like how do I know that people are going to even see it? Like how do I know that people are going to be like clicking on it, or like is it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's totally worth it. Like I have content, I have images that I pinned in 2015 that I still bring in traffic 5 years later.
Wow.
5 years later. So definitely the key is always the SEO. Again, Pinterest is a search engine. So having those descriptions correctly, making sure that you are including all the terms that your client is going to be looking for on Pinterest and also on the boards. Like think like, what is my client looking for? What boards am I going to create? What type of weddings I create that I can create as many boards as possible where I can fit that content there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the description of the boards, you also need good SEO. So
Okay.
go back to describe the board. This is about wedding cakes. And if you mainly do weddings I'm in Texas, so if you're a Texas wedding planner, you may want to add Texas as much as possible, Texas weddings and the cities that you also work.
Okay.
So yeah, but good SEO is essential and pins go evergreen. Like if they go viral, they go viral and they stay there. They live in the platform. A pin lives in the platform generally if you have good SEO for 30 days. If
Oh.
you have great SEO, it lives there for 90 days. If you have amazing SEO, I don't know, something happened and the gods came down and put like fairy tale dust on your pin, it can live there for like years, really.
That's
So,
amazing. And I
yeah.
and I think that's kind of like the I guess kind of the conundrum that I feel like a lot of businesses when they're talking about Instagram or not Instagram, Pinterest, trying to figure out like how they're going to use it and if it's worth their time, it's making sure that they understand that, okay, if you put it out there and you put it out there, that's like 30 days worth of an advertisement when someone's typing in wedding cake
Yeah.
that they can find you. And so
Yes.
that's, I mean, and really kind of thinking through like all the different photos that they can use, even for the same, like if it's a blog post and there's 10 photos, you can pin those 10 like that's 10 pins right there.
Yeah, that's 10 pins, absolutely. And if you have images that are, again, horizontal and you can crop them, you may even create more than 10 images.
Right.
And I always recommend people to have at least 10 on a blog post, but if you can have more, why
Yeah.
not? The more pins to have, more ways to promote it.
That's so
So,
cool. No, absolutely. And then so for the photos, like and the pins, obviously. So when you're pinning, how many pins do you like to have like in a day? Like how many pins do you try to pin in one day? Because obviously the more pins you pin, the more opportunities you have to be in front of people who are looking.
yes, yes. Like for instance, for me as a publication or my other clients that are also publications, uh, I pin 30 pins a day, but that's a lot. And that's not recommended for somebody that doesn't produce content in a constant basis, right? So I'm gonna say for a regular vendor, a regular creative, from 5 to 10 pins a day, it's the ideal number. But the most important thing is consistency. So if you can get a scheduler and if all you can do is sit down 1 hour and create pins and spread them out, and 2 to 3 pins per day is what came out of your working hour, then that's fantastic. As long as you are consistent, you will have good results. Um, for my vendors that I manage that are not publications, I pin 10 times a day. But that's not all I'm doing, but that's not all we are doing. But yeah, I mean that's what we recommend for somebody that doesn't have a lot of content. But again, I understand like people don't have time. But there is also ways to figure out where you can pull that content from. Like I said, there is all blog posts, there is pictures that you have on websites that are like portfolio style that you can also pin. You
Okay.
don't necessarily, yeah, you can pin your Instagram pictures and create traffic to your Instagram account. If you have a YouTube channel, so there's different things that you can use as tools to create new content, but 5 to 10 pins, it's the number I recommend for any regular business owner, and for publications, 30.
I think it's so good because I think a lot of people don't even realize like you could you could pin your Instagram posts and
Mhm.
have so much content right there. I mean, that's fantastic. Like a lot of I mean it's just I don't know. I think it's one of those things like you might not necessarily remember or think of doing that, but that's definitely going to help. And so if you're pinning those, do you recommend to keep, part of the caption or some of the caption the same, or do you think it's better just to have a totally new caption for Pinterest?
If you're pinning manually, because also Tailwind has a tool where if you're using their scheduling tool for Instagram and for Pinterest, you can connect them. So every time I mean, an Instagram post goes live, it also sends them to Pinterest.
Okay.
But that will go straight with the same caption and all
Okay.
that. You can do that if you want to. That's what I do with my account. But if you want to go really like in depth about promoting your Instagram account, and I had done this before, I go and change the captions. I go manually and pin my Instagram post. I do it with a scheduler, but I don't do it automatically.
Got it.
I I do it manually. Yeah.
Okay. That's really good. And so what would you say like for people who are like, okay, so how many boards should I have? How many pins per like what should I try to pin like one pin per board or does it matter?
What a board should have at least 10 pins in a month.
Okay.
So if you're going to create a board, just make sure that you will have enough content in a month to fill it out with 10. And the ideal number that we want to reach is 25. So even if you have 25 that you're going to reach in 3 months, and then don't touch that board again, because let's say uh, you are not doing weddings anymore on that region, or that bohemian style goes out of style and you're not doing bohemian anymore. So that board may live there in your account just in case people are looking still for boho ideas, but you're not putting content there. That can still be there and be useful to you as long as there is 25 pins.
Got it. So 25 is kind of like the magic number
Yes.
for how many pins they should have.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is it better, or I mean, like, does it help in the algorithm if there are more people who have repinned that pin, or is it more about like if people click through it, or how does that like kind of measure up in their algorithm?
How the clicks, I don't really know like the formula exactly, like X equals Y Z. but but I know that they first deliver it to a certain users. Also, it's very important to know that Pinterest is not about your followers. So unlike Instagram delivers your content to your followers first, right? Pinterest delivers the content to people that interacted with your content first.
Got
And
it.
if they like it, then they keep on delivering. No,
Oh,
they don't have to be your followers. So they keep on delivering to people that have similar taste to that audience.
got it.
So interacting could be like repinning, interacting could be clicking on the photo, but definitely repins are much better because if, let's say I see a pin, right, that I like that you just put up and I repin it, obviously my audience is going to see it as well. So the more repins, the more
Got
it
it.
grows exponentially. But clicks are also useful as well. So,
That's great. That's really good. And so what would you say for people who, I mean, obviously people repin other people's pins. Do you
mhm.
think that's a good way to kind of get started on a board if they don't really have a lot of photos yet?
Yeah. So for my students, I always tell them that I want them to be pinning 5 to 10 times a day, even if those 5 pins that's when we start, right? Like base point, we're gonna pin 5 times a day, and then we're gonna grow from there. I don't want them to overwhelm them with like putting too much content. It's a lot, and I cannot do it. I rather have them like start slowly. So from those 5 pins, let's do 2 pins that are your content that goes to your website, to your Instagram account, to your YouTube, whatever you want to promote, and 3 pins that are other people content, but that are all useful to your ideal client, but also that are telling Instagram that you have, you are an authority on what you're talking about. So let's say you're a makeup artist, right? So I don't want you to go and pin other makeup artists' work. That doesn't work like that. But maybe on your blog post, you also do weddings and you do the entire wedding. Maybe you have wedding dresses. Then you want to go and pin wedding dresses that you think your ideal client, your audience will like.
Got
And that will tell Pinterest that you also have authority on the wedding
I
industry.
Okay, that's really good. That's a really important point because I think a lot of people think, okay, well, if I'm only doing, like, if I'm only a florist, I should only pin things about flowers and floral design. But
Mm-hmm.
it's actually better for you to have more boards that have maybe nothing to do with floral design, and it's about whether it's the ceremony and just like the design of it, or if it's the catering or the
Mm-hmm.
cake or the stationery or whatever it is, other things that can actually help your account as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's
Yes.
really cool. That's really good.
Because for me the ultimate goal is that people goes to your website, right? So
Right.
I don't, that you get clicks so you can capture that client. So I don't want you to pin something that is from your competitor and then you create actually traffic to your competitor's website. Like that goes against everything we're trying to build
Right.
here. So so don't pin your competitors' work, even if you think like, oh, that's an amazing idea that my client is gonna like. Don't do it. Don't do it. There's so many other things you can pin that your client will like and you will actually help them and it's not gonna affect you. So yeah.
That is so funny. I love that. I love that. So I think one of the things, again, it's Pinterest is it's definitely different than when it first started. And so I love all the things that you're saying, because I mean, for someone who doesn't use it very often, they might think that it's still just kind of like working by the same rules that it did when it first started. And
Mhm.
so it's important to know. So in terms of like the number of, like, I guess how much time it takes you to do like the 10 pins a day, what do you think is a good amount of time? Like if I was going to sit down like one day and plan out my week, what would, like, what amount of time do you think is a good amount of time for someone to spend doing that? Because I think the other part is people are like, okay, that's great, but I don't have any time right now anyways. So when am I going to find time to pin original posts and captions and do all of this when I'm already doing that on Instagram, and I'm already like, they're already juggling so many different things.
And that's also when the strategy of pinning to different boards comes in. And if you're using a scheduler like Tailwind, you can actually create a pin and then say, oh, it's going to go first, again, to the example of the cake. It's going to go first to the cake board, and then it's going to go to the pink weddings, and then it's going to go to the New York weddings. And then you can even do the intervals. So they don't go to the same board the same day. They can go to a different board every single day. So with those three boards, you already have three pins that you schedule in 1 minute.
Right.
So that you already filled out a spot for 3 days of your week. So in reality, you really are not going to have to do 70 pins to do the entire week. You're really going to have to do 20, 22 pins. And if you really send them to the right boards, that's all you have to do. So I think 22 pins with good descriptions and good SEO can be tackled down. If you're just starting, maybe in 2 hours, but if you already get the hold of it, I think an hour and you will be good to go. And you have to forget about Pinterest for the rest of the week and just come back next week, check your stats, see what's working, and just put more of that content again. And that's all. That's
That
that's what we do.
that's so great. And I mean, again, I think it's the, I don't know, the great thing about being able to set it and forget it. That's fantastic. And a lot of people don't even think about that, because it's, you know, it's like, oh wait, what am I, I'm supposed to pin this and then repin it. And then do you suggest to, if you're going to pin one photo, do you suggest to repin it to different boards during the same week or different weeks?
I like to leave intervals of 3 days, but it's because I'm putting a lot of content out, right? So even for my account, like 30 pins, that's I do 3 days. And for vendors that I manage their accounts that we're pinning 10 pins per day, I leave an interval of 2 days.
2 days.
So not even a week. Yeah, not even a week. It doesn't really. I haven't seen a real decline on views or clicks on the interval. But
Okay.
I do see I do see a real decline if you pin the same pin to 5 boards the same day. Then
Got it.
that's like it seems spammy. So
Got
it
it.
has to vary a little bit. Yeah.
Got it. That's really good. So, and because again, I think some people are like, okay, so, and I don't remember what the actual rule is, but you can't repin it to the same board or something. Like you can't repin it to, is it to another? There, you can't repin it after a certain amount or before a certain amount of time or something. Isn't
Yeah.
there some like rule where you can't repin it? Basically, like you like you pinned it once and like it has to stay there and live there for a little while before
Mhm.
you can repin it again.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's 24 hours.
Okay.
So at least 24 hours. So at least one day. That's why I like to leave two
Got
and in some cases three, like
it. Okay.
depending on the amount of content. But I'm gonna advise on 3 days. That's my preferred
Right.
time.
Do you find that most couples are on Pinterest more during the week or more on the weekends?
Oh, the weekends for sure. Saturdays and Sundays are crazy for traffic, especially clicks. That's where most of the clicks come from. Fridays are really slow. Monday to Thursday, it varies depending on the season, but also depending on like holidays and things like that.
Got
So, but definitely the weekends. Like if you don't have time to pin every day, at least try to put something on Saturday and Sunday, please.
I love it. I love it. And this is so good because again, I think you were completely right when you first said at the beginning that a lot of people use Pinterest just for collaboration. And they're totally missing out on the opportunity for the marketing aspect because they're just like, well, I don't think it's really going to work, or I don't understand how it works or anything like that. So that's good. That's really good. Now, do the pins that you pin show up in like a Google search at all in terms of like ranking it higher because it's on Pinterest?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If you go to Google and search, you are going to find, let's say you search blue wedding cake, right?
Right.
You're going to find usually the first results are pins. And that's crazy.
Really?
That is
That's
crazy to
crazy.
me. Yeah. So usually the first results are pins, and that is like another level of search engine marketing
Yeah,
amazingness that you can
that's awesome.
grab out of Pinterest. And then another thing that I have been talking to vendors lately on all the conversations about diversity is the fact that they were like, oh, well, Pinterest is not really diverse. And I'm like, well, let's put our diverse content on Pinterest and
Yeah.
let's make it diverse. So it's not only about being the marketing opportunity for me, at least anymore. I am not, I'm rethinking of how I'm approaching people on using Pinterest because I believe it's beyond the benefit that it brings to your business. Now is a service to the industry to diversify that platform. So if we as creators produce content that is diverse, let's put it on that platform so when brides go there, they can see the ideas that they're looking for, but also they can see themselves reflected in that in Pinterest.
I love
So
that. I love that so much. And that's exactly it because Pinterest it only exists from the content that we pin. Like it doesn't do they're not pinning, like Pinterest is not pinning their own stuff and
no,
hoping
they're
people repin it. We have to be pinning things. So we get to create that world that we want to see. And so if we want it to be more diverse and more inclusive, we can pin, I mean, and that's the great thing is like you're putting that content hopefully on your Instagram, you're putting it on your website. Those are things that you can pin. And so that way you're contributing to the diversity of Pinterest. So
yeah,
that's awesome. That's so
yeah,
great. I
yeah.
love that. And so in terms of kind of like if people are interested in looking more like so Belle the magazine, obviously you cover all things wedding, right?
Yes.
So for people who are looking for inspiration, even just kind of like a good, not blueprint, but just kind of a good structure understanding of like what your Pinterest boards look like is for Pinterest, do they just type in Belle the magazine or do they type in Belle or
Yeah.
how do they find you?
Build a magazine on Pinterest. That's how you will find me. Right now, I'm actually super excited because it's summer, and usually in summer it's like our low season, and we reached 16 million yesterday on
That's
Pinterest.
awesome.
Yeah. So I usually on engagement season we go between 18 and 20, and that's like amazing. But I always tell people, oh, summer is so low. And yesterday I was checking and I'm like, 16 million, that is amazing. Like I'm so excited because I
Yes.
mean it means that the new content strategy is really working because we are constantly producing content ourselves, right? So before it was a lot about what pinning, what the repins and the old content and how that was influencing the algorithm. And now you can really tell that by us producing new content is really bringing us up. So I'm really excited about that.
That's amazing. 16 million.
Yay!
Crazy. That's crazy. Awesome. Congratulations. So
Thank you.
when you're like, so I mean, we're going to be running out of time soon, but in terms of like what people can do. So if they're like, I haven't done anything with my Pinterest in a long time and I want to start again, what do you suggest that, like, do you suggest that they first create boards that they think would be good and then start to fill them? Should they fill the boards they have and then kind of add in more boards later? What's like a better strategy, you think?
I think the better strategy is just think about what your audience is looking for and then go and say, okay, my Pinterest account totally reflects that, my boards totally reflect that, or they don't. So now I'm going to have to make those changes. But the first thing you need to do is work on that SEO main level. So your pins actually go viral or they can be seen by other people. But the first step is make sure your account describes you as a company. You have a business account so you can see analytics, but also find those terms that you want to be trending for on Pinterest and that your audience is looking for. We call them keywords. It's the same thing on SEO. We call them keywords. So those keywords should be reflected on your bio, should be reflected on your boards, should be reflected on the descriptions of your boards. And those keywords are also going to be used on your pins. And if you can, use them also on your blog post because everything is tied up.
I love it.
So, yeah.
No, that's so good. That's so good. And so in terms of, so they'll start to like look at obviously their own Pinterest account and figure out what their new strategy is going to be, and then kind of clean house and do all of that. And then they can sign up for like Tailwind, or there's different scheduler softwares to do that. So then they can start to do that. And then from there, do you suggest like that they should, you said between like 20 and 30 pins is what you kind of shoot for. Is there like a sweet spot where it's like, this is great, and if you go too much higher, it doesn't really help you?
At least have 5 pins per day. That's my recommendation. But again, if you cannot even do that, 1 pin, 2 pins per day, as long as you're doing it in constant basis, like Pinterest really sees you active. You're not really active because you have a schedule, you haven't even logged in the app at all, but producing content constantly, right. That's the main thing. 5 to 10 pins a day, that's the recommended amount. And I think if you use the strategy of sending it to all the boards that it will qualify for, you will need to produce probably between 20 and 30 pins per week, and you will have 10 pins per day.
Got it.
So I honestly advise on people to sit down and dedicate 1 hour, maybe on a Sunday or a Monday when you start your week. Just go and do some pins and forget about it and revise it 7 days later and see what worked, what didn't work. But see the beauty of what it is not to touch the pins, because I also find that people are like, oh, I pinned something, and then they're like, is it working? Is it working? Is it working?
It's like,
that's how it is with Instagram.
Right.
The gratification process is like instant. Like people are liking it. And with Pinterest, it works a little different because it takes days for it to actually work. So sometimes pins reach their max in 30 days. So imagine that. But if you visit them in 7 days, you are going to see results already. So
right. That's
yeah.
And it's definitely one of those things that, we've all been conditioned. I actually just wrote a post on it on our Instagram about how we've been conditioned to just like, do certain things on social media. And so we just think that that's what we're supposed to do when it might not be the way it actually works. Do you know what I mean? Like, but we're just so used to it. And it's like, okay, well, like I just need followers. I just need likes. And for Pinterest, especially if it's not about getting more followers, it's about getting your SEO pin right, so that you can be in front of the right people and just being consistent. It sounds like, it's so funny because it sounds so simple. Like it sounds like
it honestly is so simple, but it's when people tell me like, oh, well, I don't understand the platform. Like, I don't know how to use it. And I'm like, it's really simple.
It's great, right?
But maybe that's why it's confusing, because it's a very simple process that is very different than what we're used to on other social media, although Pinterest is not a social media. So it's a very simple process, but it's completely opposite to likes and comments and interaction and all that. So sometimes people cannot like believe that it's just that simple.
That is so funny. That's so
Yeah.
good. Okay, so I have one more question,
Yes.
and then we're gonna have to wrap up. But so is it good for someone, like, let's say that I have 20 pictures from a wedding, and I
Mhm.
might not want to put all 20 pictures on the blog post. Maybe some of them are similar or something. Should I upload those 20 photos of the wedding or whatever, and then have it linked to my website, even if that photo's not on the website?
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Perfect. This is an amazing question. I love it. I'm a Pinterest nerd, as you can see. All right.
I love it.
So the best thing you can do is link your pictures to a place where they live, right? Even if your galleries, your blog posts, your Instagram account, where they live, that's the best you can do. For similar pictures, like let's say you have a wedding and you have 20 pictures and you don't want to put all of them on the blog post, if they are similar, you can still link them to that blog post because they are still solving that problem. So it goes hand in hand. If you have the picture and you link it to your homepage, it might not perform as well, but it's still much better than not having content, than not having linked to anything. So the best practice is to link to somewhere where that picture actually lives or is solving a problem or is giving more information. That's the best practice, but it's still much better to have the photo up and link to your website than don't have it up or linked. So yeah.
Got it. Got it. So because I mean, especially if you're a photographer, you have tons of photos that you can use. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I'm just thinking like, oh, there's so many different photos that you can use to have people just go back to your website, but you're not going to put all the photos on your website. So yeah, so if that really works for people, like for Pinterest in terms of their algorithm, if they're like, that photo is not there, so we're not
Yeah,
going
as
to
long
count.
as it is similar. Like for instance, for engagement sessions, like engagement sessions, like oh we're here and then we're here and then we're here and then we're up and we're down. And it's like it's the same thing. It's the same thing. Like how many pictures of the same couple looking this way or that way can you take, right? But photographers take a lot of pictures because brides and grooms they like to select from
Yeah,
a variety. So you have a lot of photos, and of course, you're not going to put all of them on the blog post,
right,
but you can actually pin all of them to that blog post or that gallery.
right,
Because at the end of the day, Pinterest is not going to be like, oh, the bride had like her eye more like this and like
right,
this.
right, right.
Yeah, it's just a very small difference. So you can definitely use those pictures and definitely link them to the place where they are actually giving more information to. So that is great. That is great.
That's really good. Awesome. Well, so what would you say, like, kind of last advice? Here we go. We have a question. Someone says, how about if you're a newish business and don't have much content?
Oh, okay. So that's where you can start by pinning other people's content on the platform, but try not to pin your competitors, of course. And then I am sure you have an Instagram account, so you have pictures on your Instagram account that you can be pinning. And if you don't have content, and right now it's a really bad time for creatives to be creating content, so I cannot go and tell you, well, just go create content because it's hard. But I was actually talking to an event planner about this, and we were talking about how she doesn't have content. And I'm like, why don't you write blog posts and create graphics with stock images? And that's a way to actually build up your relevance and in your own website, your content, your SEO, and everything else, and your advice that you give to your clients. But also, it's a way to pin those images and bring
Right.
traffic already to your website. So that was my recommendation. Like if you can create graphics out of stock photography or out of work that you did before, and maybe you have very small amount of images, creating graphics and link them to blog posts is a good way to start.
I think that's a really great idea. And especially because two things. One is if you have an Instagram account, you have content, which is awesome. And then two, if you're blogging, you're also helping your website's SEO. And by then linking the photos, you're able to then use that same kind of traction essentially for Pinterest and the way that they're working. So that's, I mean, that right there, it gives you like two things to really work with from just doing one thing essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, repurpose
And you're also making sure that people are actually seeing your blog post,
yeah,
because Pinterest is going to actually send people to the blog post. Sometimes we create blog posts, well, vendors create blog posts, and then if they don't have the best SEO on Google, they don't really, nobody's really reading them.
right.
So by putting them on Pinterest and linking them to the actual blog post, you can get eyes on that blog post for sure.
That's so awesome. That's so good. And I like so, I mean, if you're, again, if you are I don't know, if you're like we said, like if you're a florist and maybe you don't have a lot of images of your work, but having other boards also of like wedding cakes and bridal gowns and, you know, hoopahs or whatever it is, different things that you can be posting other people's work. And like, and again, just getting people, you know, in terms of like eyeballs or filling out a board essentially. But so for those pins, do you link that to your website, or do you link that, does that link to theirs, or how does that work then?
Yeah, I recommend people to repin for what they see on their feed, because those are usually pins that are already going viral.
Okay.
That Pinterest is actually pushing. So what you are doing by pinning other people's content, that's, again, that's not the best practice. The best practice is to pin your own content. That's the ultimate goal, right? But if we're going to do it, because we need to build up your authority on Pinterest, and we need to build up the authority of your boards. So pinning from either searching for ideas. So if you search for bridal makeup, those ideas are usually already viral on Pinterest. Pinterest is pushing them to you, is pushing them to other people, so they're good. So repin from there. Pinterest is not going to let you change the link.
Got it.
Maybe the description, depending on the account, because they roll different things for different users. But the link, you're not going to be able to change it. So yeah, do not change the link, or don't try it, because you're not going to be able to. But also it's kind of like not good practice, because then you're kind of misleading people, saying this is my work, and it's not really your work. So
Got it. Very good. Awesome. Well, we have 6 minutes left. Anything you want to leave with?
Well, I just want to invite people to start using Pinterest, please. not for me. Not do it for me. Do it for the couples.
Well, and you should be doing it for them, because number one, like you were saying, if you're, I mean, literally like an hour, and you could finish out probably a week and a half's worth of pins. Because like you were saying, if you're pinning one thing to one board and then you repin it a few days later to another board, that's more than one pin for that week that you're in it with one photo. So I think that's absolutely, I mean, why not? Like like yesterday, Denise was talking about, you know, like one of the things about when you leave money on like there's so many things that you can be doing that don't necessarily cost you extra money or investment, but they yield so much more. I think Pinterest is one of those things. And I think a lot of us are just not doing a very good job of utilizing it.
Not your fault. That's what I'm here for.
Love it. So if people have questions, they can find you. So on Instagram so Belle the Magazine, and then your personal account is it, you can call me Alex? Is that right?
You can call me Alex B, because you can call me Alex was not available. So you can call me Alex B. because I had already bought my website and everything, as you can call me Alex, because people already, well, this is a long story, but many people cannot say Alejandra or think that Alejandra is so, they don't know how to spell it. So I'm like, I'm just going to go with Alex. You can call me Alex.com. Done. And then I come to Instagram and it's taken. I'm like, okay, you can call me Alex B. That's my last name.
I like it. Okay, so you can find Alex on either one of those Instagram accounts. So your website is youcancallmealex.com.
You can call me Alex.com. And I have a free masterclass. So you can call me alex.com/growth. And you can take the class on Pinterest. It's an hour. It just tells you why you should be on Pinterest and how to use Pinterest for your business. And yeah, so if you guys want to take that masterclass, you're more than welcome to do it. I would love for you to give me some feedback on it. Tell me what you think.
Awesome. Well, I really hope everyone is rearing to go and ready to dedicate an hour to their growth using Pinterest after this. I know that like you've reinvigorated I need to do more on Pinterest. I'm like, oh, it's Pinterest. Now I'm like, okay, now I have to go do more on Pinterest.
Now I twisted your arm.
You twisted my arm. Totally. I love it though. I love it. Fantastic.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much. Thank you
so much.
Yeah.
It was so much fun.
And we'll have you on again, and hopefully everyone who's joined can join again the next time we have you on, and we can get updates on how people are doing on Pinterest.
I would love that.
Okay, awesome.
I'm gonna hold you all accountable, all of you. Right. Go use Pinterest and then come back and tell me how it's going.
Exactly. Perfect. Awesome.
Alrighty.
Have a great night. Thank you so much.
Too. Thank you so much. Bye,
everyone.